Welcome. I look forward to working with you. This is an opportunity for me to share with you, and I want to make sure that everybody knows this is not a Medicare training. This is not about Medicare. This is not about a Medicare supplements. What we're going to talk about today is communicating and working with your prospects for the Medicare market. So to start that off, I want to talk a little bit about habits. So when I talk about habits, what I'm talking about is a habit is a neurological pattern that governs any behavior. So we all engage in habits. There's a cue, that's a trigger. There's something that happens that triggers, just like on this call today, right? There's things that triggered you, and that created a routine. That routine rewards us. That reward creates a craving for us to respond the exact same way when we get that cue in the future. And the reason I'm going through this is because it's important to understand the habits of our prospects. I call them predictable buying behaviors. And it's important to understand our own habits and how our own habits might inhibit or cause a problem in the way we do business. So I'm just going to check real quick, type in the box, and let me make sure that everyone can hear me before I go any further. Are we okay? Everybody can hear good? So now we know a little bit about habits. We know that there is a cue, that's a trigger, something that triggers us. When that trigger takes place, we engage in a routine. That routine rewards us. That's why we engage in that routine. And that reward creates a craving for us to repeat that process. So why is this important? Well, cravings drive all habits and is essential to starting a new habit or destroying an old one. So think of Jerry Seinfeld. Let me ask you this question. How many of your family, friends, or relatives call you up and ask for you by your first and last name? In other words, how many of your family, friends, and relatives call up and say, hey, can I speak with Lloyd Lofton? Because none of mine do. Nobody, no of my family, friends, and relatives ever call me and say, can I speak with Lloyd Lofton? In fact, if I get a phone call that says, can I speak with Lloyd Lofton, who do you think that I think that person is? If you said a salesman, I agree with you. And that's because calling me by my first and last name was a trigger. In fact, I love this episode of Jerry Seinfeld, where it's obvious the telemarketer called him because Jerry Seinfeld says, I can't talk right now. Let me have your home phone number and I'll call you back. And it's obvious the telemarketer said, we're not allowed to give our home phone number out because Jerry said, oh, why? Because you don't like to be bothered at home either? That worked for him. The reason he said that is the last salesperson that called him up, he said, hey, I don't have time to talk. Let me have your phone number, your home phone, and I'll call you back. And they said, I can't do that. So he used a reward. He went through his routine that rewarded him, and that's why he repeats it. We all do that. You probably do that. I don't know what your routine is. I wish we could talk back and forth. I don't know what your routine is I'm going to webinar. I'll call you right back. I don't know what your routine is when you get those kind of phone calls, but you say something to them that gets them off the phone. So here's the thing. When a habit is triggered, the brain stops fully participating in decision making. So unless you spend your time trying to fight this habit loop in your prospect's behavior, unless you help them engage in a new routine, the pattern that has rewarded them in the past will unfold automatically. And you hear that in things like, I want to think about it. There's only 4 basic objections. Maybe we'll do the handling objections training here in the near future. There's only 4 basic objections: no money, no need, no hurry, no confidence. And the same reason people won't buy are the same reasons they will buy. So if the way we approach someone triggers a routine, and that routine is a reward for them, then they're automatically going to go into the routine. So I don't know if any of you use this word quote, but I know a lot of insurance agents do, because we want to give a quote to someone, right? Now, why do we want to give a quote to them? Or we want to give them the information. We want them to see that we have a good price. We want to show them that we can beat the price they currently have. But let's look at the word quote in relation to habits. Have you ever had a car wreck where you got it repaired, or you got new carpet in your house, or you got your house painted, or you had your carpets cleaned? Do you get a quote when you do that? Now, if you get in a car wreck, how many quotes do you get? Do you get just one quote, or do you usually get 2 or 3 quotes? Most people get 2 or 3 quotes. So here's my question for you. When you got that first quote, why did you get that quote? Did you get that quote for the purpose of making a buying decision? Or did you get that quote for the purpose of comparing to the next quote? My guess is that you got that quote for the purpose of comparing to the next quote. So if in fact the consumer's perception of the word quote is to get the price so they can compare to the next quote, why don't we, as salespeople, why don't we just honest with them and finish the sentence? Can I give you a quote because I know you're not buying today? See, I think what happens, I know the product a lot of times is a commodity. I know MedSups are a commodity. But why do we make ourselves a commodity? Why don't we come up with a way of communicating that doesn't trigger a routine that the prospect goes into automatically? Is there other ways that we do this in our own life? I like to look at my own life, because not only are you a highly trained, licensed professional, you're also a consumer. Sometimes as salespeople, we forget we're a consumer. I'm a consumer. So as a consumer, what kind of things are common for me? How do I engage with salespeople? Well, let's talk about buying a car. I think everybody's probably bought a car before, right? So what's that process? A car dealer is a destination place. It's not like you're driving down the street going to the grocery store and you think, oh, what the heck? Let's stop and look at a car, right? You usually go to a car dealership because you have some kind of interest in a car. I'm not saying you went there to necessarily buy the car right that minute, but you have an interest in that car. That's why you went to the dealership. So what do we do as consumers? What's the routine? Well, we pull into the lot, we park, we get out of the car salesman approaches, and we say, I'm just looking, right? Don't we all say that? I'm just looking. So are we liars like our prospects? I mean, how many times do we feel like our prospects lie to you? You hear the old thing, the prospects only lie when they move their lips, right? Well, maybe that's us. But really, it's not that we're lying to the salesman. I mean, we're there because we have some kind of interest. It's just that we don't want to be sold, right? So we walk around the lot, we pick out a car, and then we want to take that car for a test drive. So we're in the front seat, behind the steering wheel. You're in the front seat, the car salesman sitting next to you. Do you adjust anything? Before you take that car for a test drive, do you adjust anything? Do you adjust the steering wheel, the seat, maybe adjust the radio, the side view mirror, the rear view mirror? Do you adjust anything? My guess is what you're doing is you're adjusting the things you use the most in the order you use those things. And the reason you're making those adjustments is to have the car fit you. In other words, you're making the car fit you. You're making yourself comfortable with the car, aren't you? And then what happens? You take that car out for a test drive, which is really kind of funny concept. You take it out for a test drive, because what are you actually testing? I mean, how many times do you pull the car over, take the wheel off, and look at the anti-lock brakes, right? You don't do that. You don't open the hood up, take the manifold off, and check and see if the pistons are working, right? So what are you testing? You're testing the feel of the car. You're testing the things you use the most in the order you use those things. Then you get back to the dealership, you park your car. Now, the car salesman, if he's a really, really good car salesman, he's going to have you park that car right next to yours so you can see what a piece of crap you're driving, right? Then you get in, you get out of the car, and where do you go? Do you go inside? You go inside and sit with the cubicle with the car salesman, right? Here's my question for you. When you go inside and sit down with that car salesman, are you going in there for the purpose of discussing which car you might buy? Or are you going in there for the purpose of discussing how much you're paying for that car? If you said you're going in there to discuss how much you're paying for that car, I would submit to you that the reason you're doing that is because you've already taken emotional ownership over that car. You're just now talking about how much you're willing to pay for it. So you already adjusted the things you use the most in the order you use those things to make that car fit you. So here's my question for you, and here's my suggestion for you. And I hope you come on to other trainings to learn how to do this really, really well. How can you help your prospect adjust your product or service to fit them? That's the key. So here, I got a few questions for you. So are you selling to future needs or immediate needs? You have to decide, what is your marketing message? Are you selling to future needs or immediate needs? And who is your market? Is the problem with your business is that you're not selling to hungry people? Like if you're going to open a restaurant up, tell me which restaurant you think would be better to open up. You open a restaurant that's in the middle of town. You're in downtown Atlanta. That's where I'm at, Atlanta, Georgia. You're in downtown Atlanta, 6 million people here. And there's 3 other restaurants, one on each corner of where your restaurant's at. And every office building has delis in the office building. So people have all these places to go and eat. Or you're in the suburbs. You're in a small strip mall, and you're the only restaurant there, and everybody that comes there only has your place to eat at. Which restaurant do you think would be better to have? If you're selling to hungry people, they're probably going to eat. They're probably going to buy your product. And the problem I find with most salespeople is they're selling to people that are not hungry. So they're not selling to hungry people. Listen, 70% of people make a purchasing decision to solve a problem. Only 30% make that decision to gain something. But you look at the marketing messages that most marketers, most insurance agents, most IMOs, most carriers, you look at the marketing messages they put out. It is usually about what you can gain. So in other words, I can save you $30 a month on your premium. That's a gain. That's not solving a problem. So if you send that marketing message out and 100 people that are potential buyers read your marketing message, what percent of those 100 people are actually going to respond to your marketing message? What percent of them will relate with and identify with your message? Only 30%. Is that what your business plan is? My counsel to you is learn how to present your product or service in a way that your prospect can adjust it to fit them, and make your message about solving a problem that they want to solve. Because if they have a problem and they want to solve that problem and they see your product or service as a solution, there's a good chance you're going to get business. Here's my point. If you use the same script, the same presentation, the same close as every other salesperson that approaches that prospect, then who are you to the consumer? Aren't you just another salesperson? And is that your business plan? I don't think that's most of our business plan, to be just another salesperson. If the message is, I can save you money on your premium, I want to get you the best rate, I can explain Medicare to you. If your message is the same as everyone else, listen, I spoke at the 10th Annual Medicare Supplement Summit in St. Louis 2 weeks ago. The 3 people who presented before I did were direct mail lead companies. And every one of them said, come to our booth and we'll give you scripts. We'll give you free scripts. Free scripts. That was their big hook. So when I did my presentation, I got towards the end of it, I said, you know, here's what I want you to do. If your business plan is this, then you should do this. But if this isn't your business plan, you might think about doing it the way I'm suggesting. So go out there to the booth, to every direct mail lead company, get their scripts. And then I told them, look around the room. There's like 75 people in the room. So look around the room, get their script, and then make the phone call, because you're going to call the same prospects that the other people in this room are calling. And when the other people in this room call that prospect with the same script that you got from the same direct mail lead vendor, who are you to the prospect? And the look on people's faces is like, oh my God, I never thought about that. If you use the same script, the same approach, same presentation, and the same close, who are you to the prospect? Listen, my counsel to you is don't sell yourself. Separate yourself. What separates you from everybody else? 70% of people make a purchasing decision to solve a problem. 30% make that decision to gain something. So what should the conversation be about? Okay, Lloyd, all this sounds really great. Good philosophy, yeah. what should the conversation be about? I would tell you to talk to them about the things they use the most in the order they use those things. And the second thing I would tell you is people like two things. They like to hear their name, and they like to have their opinion asked. So what do I talk to them about? Well, talk to them about what they're hearing in the news every day. Talk to them about what's in front of them every day. If you're working the senior market, this headline, June 16th, 2018 at 10:13 in the morning, is new warnings about cuts to Social Security and Medicare are a reason to worry. So what script should I use when I approach people? If my script is, hi, I'm Lloyd Lofton, I'm with ABC Marketing Company, and I see that you're turning 65, I just said the same thing to them that every other product hawking, price hawking salesperson said to them when they called them. I repeated the same thing that's on every direct mail piece they got. If I call them and say, hi, I'm Lloyd Lofton, I'm with Thomas Marketing, and the reason I'm calling is because I'm reaching out to our customers to answer their questions about their concerns for the changes, the proposed changes that are taking place in Social Security and Medicare, and I wanted to call and see what questions I can answer for you. If my approach is about a problem they have, listen, the federal government is a great marketing tool for us because the federal government keeps dissonance in the marketplace. They keep confusion in the marketplace. If you work underage, how many people are confused about ACA and Affordable Health Care Act, right? And major man, how many people are confused about that? The government keeps the consumer confused, and they're looking for someone that can help them solve the problem. What's the problem? The confusion. So right here's an article. I get these articles all the time. I'm in Google Alerts, and whenever these articles come out, I get a little email, and I take the ones that have the biggest headlines, and that's the ones I use. So what are seniors concerned about? So we know the federal government's going to talk about Medicare and Social Security. That's going to be in the news every week. It's going to be in our prospects' minds every week. So what do we talk to them about? Well, there's 4 things that seniors are concerned about. They're concerned about managing the costs of doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, which by the way is a short-term care or a long-term care product, or not leaving a financial burden to their family, which is a legacy issue, and that is taken care of with a final expense. So now that I know the 4 things seniors are concerned about, how can I craft a presentation so I talk to them about the things that matter most to them? How can I craft a way to communicate with them so that I'm communicating the things they use the most in the order they use those things? Well, let's have a look. The first question I have to ask is there a way to know how they feel about aging? I mean, is there a way we can get in a conversation with them where they share with us what their thoughts are about getting older and what risks there are to getting older? I think there's a way. Let's see if this makes sense to you. I'm going to show you the way I do it. It doesn't have to be the way you do it, but I'm going to show you the way I do it. So I'm going to take Ryan. I'm going to take Ryan. Ryan, I'm going to make you an old man, buddy. So I'm going to say, Ryan, let me ask you a question. As you age, do you think you get more healthy or less healthy? Now, I want to point out to you, the words that are bolded are words that I add emphasis to because that's what people are going to relate with. So, Ryan, as you age, do you think you get more healthy or less healthy? Now, the other reason I use the word think is that if I ask you to think about something, what happens is that your gear shift of objections gets moved into neutral. You park that, there you go, Ryan, yeah. You park that gear shift into neutral. So now you're not thinking about objecting, you're waiting to listen to what I'm asking you to think about. So Ryan, as you age, you think you get more healthy or less healthy? And Ryan answered the question exactly like 80% of the prospects are going to do. You know, being a highly trained licensed professional is like being a lawyer. You never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. And every question I'm going to ask in this presentation I'm going to show you, I already know the answer to. So, and then I always ask permission to ask questions. So Ryan, let me ask you a question. As you age, you think you get more healthy or less healthy? Notice how my voice inflection goes down on the less healthy. Do you think you get more healthy? Voice inflection goes up, or do you get less healthy? Less healthy draws them in. That draws them in. That's why Ryan answered less. And I already know what he's going to say, less, right? So what's the next question? Okay, well then Ryan, as you get less healthy, do you believe your medical costs will be more expensive or less expensive? And Ryan, the answer is Less, right? 80% of the people. Now, you're going to get those obstinate people. You're going to get those people that just like to resist salespeople. But I learned this, my philosophy, years and years ago. I started with John Hancock in 1977. I was a debit agent. I worked for a combined insurance company for years as a good old door-to-door salesman. I was a field trainer and a regional with them. I've been an agency manager. I've run my own IMO. I ran a captive career distribution shop for American Republic Insurance Company for years. We did $60 million a year in business. I've run call centers doing $14 million a year with 110 seats on it. And my philosophy is you learn a sales presentation the way 80% of your prospects buy, not the way we sell. And the problem most salespeople have is they sell the way they buy. That means they present a product, they figure the price up, and if in their mind they wouldn't pay that price or they couldn't afford that price, they tend to project that onto the prospect. And the challenge with that is most consumers don't buy the way you buy. Remember, if you go with the law of large numbers, you should be making a minimum of 15 presentations a week. But that's another training. That's an activity training. Maybe we'll do that another time. So what are the questions I've asked Ryan? Ryan, let me ask you a question. As you age, do you think you get more healthy or less healthy? Well, I get less healthy, boy. Okay. So as you get less healthy, do you believe your medical costs will be more expensive or less expensive? And notice the voice inflection. Notice the emphasis I'm putting on words. And he's going to say less expensive. I mean, more expensive, right? Again, it's like being a lawyer. You don't ask a question you don't know the answer to. Now, I said most people buy the product. 70% of people buy to solve a problem, right? So I'm not selling insurance. I'm not selling a MedSup. I'm not selling a final expense, a long-term care. I'm not selling a final expense product. I'm selling the problem. The product solves the problem. People don't buy the product. If they don't see themselves as having a problem, your product means nothing to them. So when I say, okay, Ryan, so as you get less healthy, do you believe your medical expenses will become more expensive or less expensive? Ryan says they get more expensive. And I say, Ryan, is that what you expect to have happen? And he goes, well, yeah, you can't really do anything about that. I mean, blah, 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 whatever he's going to say. And you know what? The answer doesn't matter. I'm selling the problem because watch what happens. Well, Ryan, let me ask you this. What plans do you have to manage those growing medical expenses as you age? See, do you see why the answer doesn't matter? Yeah, that's what I'm expecting to have happen, happens to everybody, or no, that's not what the answer doesn't matter. I'm going to emotionally put him in a position to take ownership over this problem he's going to have. Remember I said, are you selling to immediate needs or future needs? So watch what happens. So he says, either, now this is also where I find out, well, you know, I just got a bid from Physicians Mutual last week. My wife's cousin's going to come talk to us. I'm happy with I'm going to get whatever I'm going to get right here. Because I am not making a full sales presentation unless I know I have a qualified prospect. And I want to make sure that prospect is buying the problem. And if they don't buy the problem, if they don't take ownership over that problem, they're not buying the product anyway. So Ryan, let me ask you this. What plans do you have to manage those growing medical expenses as you age? And 80% of the time, not all the time, but 80% of the time, they either say, I don't know, or that's why I'm talking to you. And I love it when they say that. That's so great when they say that. So here's the next question. Is there a way to know why they have health insurance? So we found out how they feel about aging, right? We got a little information on that. Now this isn't designed to know everything they think about it, but we got a little information on that. Is there a way to know why they have health insurance? Have you ever thought about that question? Why do people have life insurance? Why do people have health insurance? And I don't mean the reason we think they should have it, the reason they think they should have it. And not just the reason they think they should have it, how they feel about having it. Is there a way to know that? Well, there might be. So I say to Ryan, well, let me ask you this, Ryan. Now remember, I just said to Ryan, what plans do you have, right? Remember that? So now I say, okay, Ryan, well, let me ask you this. Why do you have health insurance? Do you have health insurance for your best health year or your worst health year? And 80% of the people are going to say, as you probably said in your own mind when I said it, in my worst health year, right? Isn't that why we have it? You don't have health insurance because you're healthy and you never go to the doctor. You have health insurance in case, right? So I'm going to get what in my worst health year. Okay, now let me ask you this. Now, in your worst health year, are you expecting to pay out of your pocket for medical care? Or do you see an insurance company paying these growing medical expenses at some point? Did you get the voice inflection? Did you get the emphasis on the words? Okay, Ryan, now in your worst health year, are you expecting to pay out of your pocket for medical care? Or do you see an insurance company paying for these growing medical expenses at some point? Notice the voice inflection? See how that creates an emotion in people? See how it draws them in and makes them think about what I'm asking? And then you wait for the answer. And they're going to tell me why they have health insurance. And the answer is going to be in their worst health year. So when I get that answer, and again, it's like being a lawyer. You ask questions that you already know the answer to. When they say, well, for my worst health year, is there a way to know how they want to access health care? In other words, what's their routine? What's their habit of accessing health care? And do they want to keep accessing health care that way? Is there a way to find that out? And as you can probably guess, there is. So it's okay, Ryan. So Ryan has said, I have health insurance for my worst health year. Okay, Ryan. So let me ask you this then. How do you prefer to access health care? Do you need to manage your monthly budget? You don't get sick very often. You don't mind seeing a doctor in a network. You're willing to pay some out of your pocket each time you see a doctor, have a procedure, or are hospitalized, in order to have your premium a little lower. And what did I just describe? It's either a Med Advantage, or maybe a Plan G, or maybe a Plan N, right? Or do you want to be able to go to any doctor, hospital, or clinic anywhere in the country who accepts Medicare assignment, show your benefit card, receive your medical care, leave, and never see a bill? Which way do you prefer to access health care? You notice the voice inflection on that? Or do you want to be able to go to any doctor, hospital, or clinic anywhere in the country who accepts Medicare assignment, show your benefit card, receive your medical care, leave, and never see a bill? Which way do you prefer to access health care? Do you feel the difference in that? But here's what I've done is I just put them in a funnel, right? I just got them down in a funnel. Now I've got a pretty good idea if I'm going to be talking to them about a MedSup or Med Advantage, right? I got a pretty good idea about that right off the get-go. I call it predictable buying behaviors. I already know a lot about this prospect. I'm going to cover that for you when we get done with it. So think about that. What do we already know about them? Well, think about what we just learned about the prospect, and I'm going to tell you a lot of other things we already know about this prospect. So what did I do? I talked to them about the things they use the most in the order they use those things. And what did I tell you people like? They like to hear their name. I repeatedly said Ryan, and they like to have their opinion asked, right? And I repeatedly asked their opinion. And I listen. And when you listen, don't listen to respond, listen to understand. So where are we at? All right, well, I know how they feel about aging. I know why they have health insurance, and I know how they like to access healthcare, right? So how can I enable them to adjust the product to fit them? Is there a way to do that? And as you can guess, there's a way to do that. So here we go. You ready? This one I'm just going to run through real fast here. So I say, Ryan, let me ask you this. When you think about managing your healthcare expenses, are you more concerned about managing the cost of doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, or not leaving a financial burden for your family? These are the 4 things seniors are concerned about. And Ryan's answer will be the thing he uses the most in the order he uses it. In other words, it'll be his dominant buying motive. So Ryan, let me ask you this. When you think about managing your healthcare expenses, are you more concerned about managing the cost of doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, or not leaving a financial burden for your family? I went through that fast for you, but I did it the way you should do it the first time, right? And Ryan says, whatever he says. So I want to make sure all my doctor bills are covered. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so on any new plan you design today, you want to make sure all your doctor bills are covered. Is that what I hear you saying, Ryan? You see how I used a tie-down question and a trial close? Whoa, I'm glad I saw that, Ryan. You see how I use a tie-down question and a trial close? And I use a conjunction, right? The word so. I'm connecting two different concepts. Okay, Ryan, so on any new plan you design today, now who's designing this plan? Whose plan is it? Their plan, right? When are they designing it? Today, right? So the inference is that we're going to do something about this when? Today. So in any new plan you design today, you want to make sure all your doctor bills are covered, because that's what he said is the most important to him. I gave him a choice. Doctors, hospitals, prescriptions, recovering home after a procedure, not leaving a financial burden on your family. He called doctor. That tells me pretty good idea that that's what he uses the most. That's what's top on his mind. Is that what I hear you saying? When he says yes, I don't have to go back and revisit that again. We've already closed it. I see salespeople all the time chewing their cud twice. We talk customers into the sale, and we talk them right out of the sale. So what do I say? I go right back to the original question, and I leave out the benefit he just told me he wants because I already closed on that minor point, right? So what's the question? All right, well, let me ask you this then. When you think about managing the rest, see, there's a sentence right there. See the word rest? Now, when you think about managing the rest of your healthcare expenses, the rest triggers a habit in them, and they listen. Okay, so what's the other? They listen. When you do this live in person, people actually lean into it. If you will use the voice inflection like I'm telling you, you can feel people lean in on the call, just like I did the voice inflection. Okay, right now, when you think about managing the rest of your healthcare expenses, are you more concerned about managing the cost of hospitals, prescriptions, recovering at home after a procedure, or not leaving a financial burden for your family? Which one matters most to you? Notice I left out doctors. The next thing they tell me is the thing they use the most in the order they use it. So let's say that Ryan says, I want to make sure all my hospital bills are covered. Okay. So Ryan, on any new plan you design today, then you also, notice I use the word also, so you also want to make sure, and I go right through that dominant buying motive. Is that, I'm sorry, I was reading something. So on any new plan you design today, then you also want to make sure all your hospital bills is covered. Is that correct? And he goes, yeah. And we close that issue up. I never have to visit that again. Notice nowhere in this conversation have I used the word Medicare, Medicare supplement, product, carrier name. I haven't done any of that kind of stuff, right? What am I selling? What have I been selling this whole time? Selling the problem, right? So after you cover the 4 things seniors are concerned about, you then close on a minor point. And here's the closing question. It's subtle. You almost miss it when you see the live presentation. You don't even notice it. I go through this whole presentation, salespeople don't even notice that I did it. So I say when we get done with that, we go through the 4 things. Now remember, recovering home after a procedure is short-term care or long-term care. Not leaving a financial burden to the family's final expense, right? So if they name one of those, I now know there's a chance that I could package either a short-term care or long-term care with the MedSup, or I could package a final expense. And you can do this presentation with this concept on any product that you have. Life insurance, disability, anything. You just have to know, you just have to put it together right. So here's the way I do it. So I said, so on any new plan you design today, then you want to make sure that all your doctors are covered, all your hospitals are covered, all your prescriptions are covered. You want to make sure that you have recovery at home. You want to make sure you don't leave financial burden, whatever it is. And here's the closing question. This is how I pivot to it. Ryan, let me tell you, or if I'm there in person, let me show you how this works. And that's the pause. Let me show you. If I'm in person, if I'm on the phone, let me tell you. And then you do a pause, how this works. If you do it correctly and you're in person, people will literally lean in. If you do it correctly on the phone, you can feel people literally leaning in, listening to you. Okay, Ryan, let me tell you how this works then. Then I pause. Remember, you sell the problem that you solve, not the product. I have said nothing about a product, a carrier. I haven't mentioned that at all. because they don't care about it. They don't care about a med sup or a life insurance. They don't care about any of that. That's just the solution. So here's the way I do it. Okay, so Ryan, let me tell you how this works then. With the plan you design today, you will be able to go to any doctor, hospital, or clinic anywhere in the country that accepts Medicare assignment, which most do. Show your benefit card, receive your medical care, leave, and never see a bill. Is that what you're expecting to happen in the future? Now, is that what you want to start happening? Is that correct? See how that works? When they say yes, you just sold the product. And I've never mentioned Plan F, Medicare, or Medicare Supplement. When they say yes, that's what I want to have happen. Great, right? Here's how the plan you designed today will work. And now, the product becomes important. Only now is the product relative. So what I do is I tell them how Plan A works, tell them how Plan B works, and then I show them the how Medicare Plan F or whatever. I didn't do the product because I don't know which one you might be selling. But we can do a training on that if you want. So before I go on, just type in the box, Ryan or somebody type in the box and let me know if I need to cover any of that again, or are we okay? I just want to finish this up with some tips for you. So just type in the box and let me know if it's okay if I move on. Financial burn Plan G. Okay. All right. All right. So is it okay if I move on? Or everybody okay with that? All right. So here, let's talk about the market. I said that I would tell you a bunch more things about the senior market that you already know before you ever talk to a prospect. Okay. So I'm going to share this with you right now. So let's take the target market, the senior market, and let's do a profile prospect. I'm going to do a male turning 66 because that's when most of them are going to get Social Security or Medicare, 65, 66, depending on where your market is. And I'm going to say that their wife, it's a male turning 65. The wife is, say, 62. I'm 64. My wife's 60. Okay, so that's probably about average. So the male's turning 65. The wife's 62. There's three things that guy's going to do almost without exception. He's going to sign up for Social Security. When he signs up for Social Security, he's going to automatically be enrolled in Medicare. In fact, if he chooses to continue working for a little bit, he's going to have to opt out of Part D. And 80% of them are going to get some kind of supplement. MedSup, Medicare, I don't have a clue what they're going to get, but 80% are going to get some kind of supplement. So those are three things we know about this prospect before I ever talk to him. So is there anything else that we can know about him? Well, let's look at it. We know what the product costs, right? Because it's filed in every state. So do we know anything else? Yeah, I know where he's going to get the money to pay for it because they're already paying for health insurance. They've been paying for health insurance for 30 years or longer. Even if they have group coverage, they're paying for dependent coverage. So do I know anything else? I know exactly what he's going to do with that money. When he signs up for Social Security, he's automatically enrolled in Medicare. He's going to reposition $1,500 or $2,000 of the money he's already spending. He's spending $8,000, maybe $12,000, $18,000 or more a year on health insurance right now. He's going to reposition $2,000 of that over and pay for the supplement. And when he does that, that's the perfect time for me to package final expense because I'm already helping him solve a problem and he's already got the money in his budget. You know, salespeople have said to me for years that they have a hard time selling final expense because people don't have the money for it. You're just selling it either the wrong way or to the wrong market. So what else do I know? Well, I know that when he repositions that money that he's paying for health insurance over to pay for that supplement, that means he'll have to come off of that health plan. And when that happens, his wife's going to need her own standalone health plan, maybe with a critical illness and an accident rider. And I know where she's going to get the money to pay for it, right? Because they already have it in their budget. Is there anything else I know about her? Well, yeah, I know that 3 or 4 years down the road, she's going to age into Medicare, and she'll go through the same process he is. So I build in an ancillary market for myself. Is there anything else we know about this prospect? Well, I know if you go to socialsecurity.gov, the average Social Security check is about $1,341. Actually, I think it's about $1,360 now. We know the average retirement check someone gets from their work is about $1,200. And we know that women live longer than men. So I know if I fast forward, he's probably going to die before she dies. We know that the spouse, the female spouse, on average, go to socialsecurity.gov and get this information, on average gets a check of about $900 a month. So I know since women live longer than men, at the husband's death, I know that she's going to have a choice to make. She can choose to keep her Social Security, which means she won't get her husband's, or she can choose to take her husband's Social Security, which is usually 80% of the time is higher than hers. What choice do you think she's going to make? If you said take her husband's, I agree 100% with you. That's my experience with for all these years, 34 years in the business. That's my experience. She's going to take her husband's Social Security. But what is the other choice she's making when she chooses to take her husband's Social Security? Isn't the other choice she's making is to give up her Social Security? $900 a month, $10,800 a year. In other words, the first year that her husband passed away, the most emotionally devastating time in her life, she has to choose to live on less money. And you're already freeing money up in their budget when you move him from the major med plan to the med sup, and you get her own standalone plan. And salespeople do this all the time. I say we become a commodity. We shoot ourselves in the foot. You're so anxious to tell them how much money you save them that we don't do enough to tell them how much future benefit we're bringing to them. I'm not saying we don't tell them we don't save money, but I don't say a word about how much money we're saving until I get all the products in place. Because if I save them $3,000 a year on their health insurance, but I can package a final expense product in there for another $600 or $1,000, then I still saved them $2,000, right? But the minute I tell them I saved you $3,000, they've got that money in their mind they've already spent. Remember the habit? It's already spent. If I go back and try to take some of that out of there, they're going to resist me again. So in the first year her husband passed away, now watch this, this is devastating. The first year, most emotionally devastating time of her life that her husband passed away, that's $108,000 a year that she has to live on less. So the time to help your prospect solve a problem and buy from you is when you have the most influence over them. Today we talked about habits. We talked about the triggers that we use to trigger a routine in our prospect. We talked about how those routines reward our prospects, and that creates a craving for them to repeat it again. And if we fight that routine, then we are not going to be helping them solve a problem. So how do you do it? How do you talk to your prospects? Well, let's go back to a behavior that we all engage in. We all have gone to the doctor before, right? So I don't feel good. Let's say Ryan doesn't feel good. Ryan goes to Doctor A, and he describes his symptoms to the doctor. He says, "Doctor, I don't feel good, and my body kind of aches, my throat aches, I got a little bit of a fever." And Dr. A says, "Okay, Ryan, I know what's the matter with you. You can have this medicine, you can have this medicine, you can have this medicine, you can have this medicine. Which medicine do you want?" Ryan goes to Dr. B, described his symptoms. "Oh, I don't feel good, my body aches, got a sore throat, got a little bit of a fever." And Dr. B says, "Okay, I know what's wrong with you, Ryan." And Dr. B writes a prescription out, hands it to Ryan, says, "Fill this, take it twice a day, come back and see me in 10 days. Which doctor do you have more confidence in? If you said Dr. B, then you're like most people. And the reason you have more confidence in Dr. B is because Dr. B diagnosed the problem and prescribed the solution. My counsel to you is quit being Dr. A, make sure you're Dr. B. Diagnose the problem, prescribe the solution. Because if you use the same script, the same presentation, the same close with every prospect, who are you to the prospect? Aren't you just another salesperson? Is that who you plan on being? Listen, I've enjoyed spending this time with you. It's recorded. Ryan, I'm going to call you right now and see what questions or comments you have. I'm going to end the recording, but if you'd like a copy of the script, just go to lloydlawson.com/4things, and you can download a copy of the script. We're not marketing anything to you. I'm just giving you this script. Ryan and his dad do a great job, and I want to make sure you get this in your hands if it's of benefit to you, if it's of value on it. So I'm going to stop the recording right now. Again, thanks for being on the call.